On today's program, I interview Peter Kling. Peter Kling is the author of Letters to Earth, The Future is Yours. Peter Kling is by far the most popular guest on this program and has well over 500,000 views on this channel alone. Peter Kling was recently on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory. He's a great guy. To learn more about Peter Kling, visit peterkling.com. On this show, we continue with the Donald Trump prophecy in what we call the power of the Donald Trump prophecy as seen by the mother of all bombs and an increasingly aggressive posture taken by Trump. How will this all play out? How does it relate to prophecy? It all ties in what is once again a fascinating program. Like the video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Add me on Twitter, RussellScott12. Enjoy the show.
This message is transmitted at the request of the United States Office of Civil Defense. At 3:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, NORAD detected a long-range nuclear missile launch in North Korea. This missile is believed to be headed in the direction of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. All residents within a 400-mile radius of this area should seek a fallout shelter immediately.
Peter Kling, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you, Russell.
The Donald Trump prophecy. This is a series that we have done. It's almost time for you to go back to the wilderness. And anyway, we all know what's going on with Donald Trump. He's attacking Syria. He's dropping the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. Looks like he's going to do North Korea next. I don't know, Peter, does Donald Trump have a taste for war?
Russell, if you go back to one of our earlier interviews somewhere in there, you're going to find me making a statement that compared Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, just in the things that he wanted to do logistically in deporting illegal aliens. Now, everybody's surprised. Oh, Donald's dropping bombs. Yeah. Were you expecting something different? Were you expecting the Prince of Peace? Here's the thing. And 80% of the predictions that I made, including the things in Letters to Earth, have happened. That's pretty good for a psychic. 80%. Jean Dixon should only wish she had those odds. But anyway, she got one thing right in her whole life, and she became a celebrity. Regardless. 80%. And one of the predictions that I made was in 2014, the end of September, beginning of October. The General Assembly of the United Nations had declared war on extremism. And all the Muslim countries were up in arms because of what was going on, and they wanted to get the wording right, and they used the word extremism. So the General Assembly of the United Nations officially declared a world war on extremism. Now, that could fit many different things, and now I'm going to point that out in a little bit. That is a world war. They declared World War when? In September of 2014. What happened 100 years previous to that? Didn't we have another world war? Oh, yeah, the First World War. So looking at the world situation, looking at what the prophecies were saying, I turned around. I made the prediction that the United States would get sucked into a world war in 2017. This world war on extremism, including Islam. And we had a very interesting thing happen just last week. On the 100th anniversary, April 6th, 2014, was the 100th anniversary of Woodrow Wilson giving the command to the Navy to open fire, which got the United States started in World War I. The opening salvo was from the Navy. According to Donald Trump, he was having dinner with President Xi of China. And they were having dessert, and they were eating the most magnificent chocolate cake, is some adjective Donald used to describe the cake that they were eating. And he gets the message from the Navy that they're locked and loaded. And as he's having dessert with President Z, he says, fire. I wonder what Z thought about that as he was enjoying his deliciously decadent chocolate cake. Interesting timing, to say the least. And then the United States drops the mother of all bombs. Interesting. Actually, that's not what happened next. What happened next is that we sent a flotilla. We sent an aircraft carrier group to North Korea. It's on its way. An aircraft carrier by itself has enough firepower to deliver more destructive weaponry than what was released during World War II on Europe. There is more explosive capacity to an aircraft carrier than all the bombs dropped during the Second World War in Europe. Think about that. And it's on its way to North Korea. Now, of course, they've got plenty of nuclear missiles and Tomahawk missiles and other devices on there. And Donald Trump made reference to the submarines. More firepower than the aircraft carriers. All rolling up to the edge of North Korea. And I'm sure President Z knows it because President Z is now, from what I understand, lined the borders between between China and North Korea. All the troops have been deployed into that area. And now it's up to Z to take the fangs out of North Korea, or Trump will do it for him. Diplomacy by holding a gun to somebody's head, and so to speak. Hey, Trump's the master of the deal. What do you want me to tell you? And he's willing to turn around and say, hey, North Korea, watch what we're going to do in Afghanistan. Think about it. Now, this is a man who was vowed to remove approximately 2 million illegal aliens from the United States. Approximately 1 million of those illegal aliens are associated to gang members. They're involved in child trafficking. They're involved in human trafficking. They're involved in drugs, robbery, and all sorts of other crimes. And people are saying, oh, no, we can't send them back. Seriously? Last week I read an article that they just found 33,000 more beds to process illegal aliens out of the country. When I say they, I'm talking about Homeland Security and ICE and there's one other alphabet company, agency that's involved there. I forgot which one, but yep, there's another 33,000. Just open up another FEMA camp. That's all you got to do. Just keep on opening them up. There's, I don't know, about 100 across the United States, maybe more. I don't remember what the total number of FEMA camps there are, but they're all across the United States, mostly centered around sanctuary cities. Interesting. So I always say be careful of what you ask for, because there's one other thing that's getting ready to happen, and this is kind of a shift in gears, but very important nonetheless. And that's alleged to be, and I use the word alleged because everything as far as I'm concerned is hearsay. Unless it's coming out of the White House, and that could be hearsay too. Listen, look at the last administration. No, don't even bother looking at the last administration that we had. It was a complete lie. Right from the first family all the way down to transgender bathrooms. Whatever. But what's happening with CERN is happening on a very interesting anniversary, and this one kind of hits close to home. In September, CERN is supposed to crank up with their Awake project, which is like a little turbocharger built on the side of CERN, which is supposed to make it 1,000 times more powerful. Okay, sounds interesting. Sounds like they may have found the key to doing what they need to do in order to open up a Stargate or open up a time portal into a different dimension. That's what is coming out of CERN, is that they want, or that's what's being alleged. Let me put it that way. And when we start looking at biblical scripture, we have Revelation, the 9th chapter, which has not been fulfilled yet, as far as I know. All of chapter 8 is fulfilled. And chapter 9 is a subsequent chapter. It's the blowing of the trumpets. And in chapter 9, it starts off with a star falling from heaven, and he's given the key to the pit of the abyss. And he unleashes a plague upon the earth. It's like a plague of locusts. And the description that John gives is that they look like horses with breastplates of armor, and their faces look like human faces, but they have lions' teeth. And their hair looks like women's hair, and they've got tails that look like scorpions' tails. And he says they go on to sting the men for 5 months, and the men don't die, but they wish they were dead, but death keeps on fleeing from them. Interesting. And then it says that they have a king over them. The king in Hebrew is Abandon, or in Greek, Apollyon. Apollyon is associated with the sun god, Lucifer. My favorite one is the one that Christianity is set on, and Emperor Constantine was a Mithra worshiper. Mithra was actually another version of Tammuz, who we could say was actually the first Christ child, oddly enough. Because the story goes that Syrianus, who had murdered Nimrod, this is going back to Samaria, you remember the Anunnaki and all the cuneiform writing? Well, this is that time. And the recorded history is that Syrianus had her husband Nimrod killed. Nimrod gets a real short mention in the scriptures, about one little paragraph, 2 sentences. And after Nimrod's death, Syrianus becomes pregnant. And she makes the claim that it is Nimrod incarnate who has come back to be with his people. And she names the child Tammuz. And hence she becomes the mother of God. Where have we heard that story? Oh, that's what the Catholic Church says. Mary's the mother of God. No, Syrianus is the mother of God. You just misnamed her and gave her the name Mary. Just like what they worship isn't the cross. It's not the dead guy on the stick. It's the sunburst behind him. And people are just misled. It's a sad thing. They're misled. The church doesn't say anything about the Bible. It only misquotes scripture. It teaches doctrine and dogma. If it taught the Bible, there would be no religious symbols or no religious idols within a church. Because what's the second commandment? You shall not make a carved image of me or any other likeness. So they can't even follow the simple 10 commandments in their whole structure. And people are just blind. They're led by this, and it's essentially the 3,000-year reign of the Holy Roman Empire. Where did we hear that before? The Third Reich. That's what it was, the Third Reich. And the Pope is jockeying his position to be large and in charge. But here's the thing about CERN. CERN, if this whole Awake project is correct, and they're opening a portal to another dimension, this dimension of the pit or Tartarus, they're doing it on the 500th year anniversary of the Reformation against the church. Woohoo! It's a family affair. Oddly enough, my family helped start the Reformation. And here we are. I'm getting to see the results of the 500th year anniversary of this, where could there be an opening of this to release the Antichrist, as it is named? When we start looking at the prophecies in Revelation, the 17th chapter, which is talking about the end of religion, it says that an 8th king appears, He comes out of the abyss, he rules for an hour, and he goes off into destruction. But it is during that hour, and it's a not a literal hour, but a short amount of time, the total focus is on to bring down religion, to destroy religion. It says that it will make her naked, eat up her flesh, and burn whatever remains with fire. In other words, religion will be exposed, its wealth taken away, and the rest destroyed. Now, don't we have a constitution that says you have the right of freedom of religion? Yep. As a matter of fact, that constitutional right is also held up by the United Nations, but you have to be careful in how the United Nations words their language, because I think it's Article 2.1 on the freedom of religion, is that we all have the legal right to worship as we want, or have the religion of our choice, provided it does not be proved to be a hazard to the public. In other words, it's not a safety hazard. In other words, if my religion states that for me to go strap a bomb on and go run out into a crowd of Christians or a crowd of Islamists or a crowd of somebody else from another religion and blow myself up, that's a danger to public safety. And so a religion like that, according to the laws of the United Nations, cannot exist. Now, oddly enough, the day after Trump ordered the Navy to launch their cruise missiles on Syria, Vladimir Putin's government declared Jehovah's Witnesses an extremist group and banned them. About the only thing Jehovah's Witnesses will do is blow up your doorbell. Okay, well, Russia's declared them an extremist group, and they've banned Jehovah's Witnesses. They are no longer a recognized member of the corporation controlled by the Catholic Church. Yes, all religions are corporations, and all corporations, including business corporations, are controlled by the mother of all corporations, the Holy See, or the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Most people don't have a clue about that. But it was Rome who invented incorporation, and it was the church that perfected it. So why wouldn't they be the mother of all corporations?
Let me ask you something, Peter.
Sure.
When the poll numbers drop, the bombs soon follow. Isn't this why Donald Trump is now dropping the bombs?
Donald Trump last week as a matter of fact, I think it was Friday, made the statement that the dollar's value is too high. We have to drop the value of the dollar. Whoa. Okay. The reason for dropping the value of the dollar is that then more foreign countries will use dollars, buy U.S. goods, and it'll become a lot less cheaper overseas, or a lot more cheap overseas once the value of the dollar drops. And that's just normally what happens in any exchange or radical currency. It was one of the great things about going to Ukraine. $1 was equal to like four and a half grivna, and if you were dealing with local goods, it was cheap. Sorry about the dogs. Something's got them upset. Anyway, as far as doing that falls right in line with what they want to do overall. In my reference back earlier, right now that there's a big giant wedge being driven between Trump and Putin. However, Trump and Xi just met. Nobody said anything about that. Odd. But when you look at the relationship between Putin and Xi, you find that they're ready and poised to pounce on the dollar. They've already stopped using dollars in their trade. They've done this a couple of years ago, stopped using dollars. They trade back and forth between rubles and yuan. And China also has two different currencies, one that is traded as a world around the world, and then another one which is contained within China itself. So they're all playing this money game, and there's a significant portion of people who are saying, well, we want to get rid of the debt system, and we're going to have this reevaluation of money, and well, yeah, that's a real possibility, especially on the road that we're going to. Because what is happening with CERN could very well spell a disaster as far as the stock market goes. CERN is in September. Look for a stock market crash to come in October. Look for people to go nuts in November, and martial law to be here by the end of the year. And then you'll have your reevaluation of money, and they'll start reassembling the situation. Be careful what you ask for. They're going to be dealing with about $2 quadrillion worth of debt that they're going to dissolve, and a lot of people who created this debt are going to be very upset. It's not something that you are going to be able to deal with just with the laws the way that they are. Come on, we know Hillary Clinton's a criminal, and we know that Bill isn't any better, but they're allowed to run around free. Seriously? Okay. You can't really get through the system because the system is so corrupt, but once it turns to martial law, round them up. So which way are we headed? You see, just by the things that Donald Trump wants to do, for the reasons that he was elected, we will have to go to a state of martial law in order to get that done. And so there may be some validity to the fact that, yes, the United States of America Incorporated is bankrupt. However, the Republic of the United States of America is solvent, alive, and well. Careful what we ask for. There's a reason why Trump's flags early in his campaign changed from American flags without the fringe to naval flags with the gold fringe and tassels. And when you look, if you look in the early days when he first declared his presidency, that wasn't there. About November, December of 2015 is when he got the fringe. And so he's been under naval control since. Now you've got stories about General Joseph Dunford, who allegedly is the acting president of the Republic of the United States of America. Interestingly enough, Dunford seemed to be following Obama around pretty much for a good part of last year, while the Obama administration was in its final days. General Dunford is also the first American general to ever speak before the General Assembly of the United Nations. Makes you wonder. So, they're not going to tell us the truth. They're not going to tell us until it's all over. They're not going to tell us until they absolutely have to. Watch any disaster movie, like Armageddon or Sudden Impact, things like that. We're going to be hit with something from outer space, but don't tell anybody. This is top secret. Let's just go quietly build our underground cities. Just saying. Just saying. We live in difficult times, hard to deal with. And we've got a divided nation like never before. We've got a nation of people that want to protect what has become or what is illegal. I'm sorry, it's a matter of fact. You've got a bunch of illegal aliens here who don't contribute to the system or who are sucking the system dry, only increasing debt.
Okay, I'm going to stop
brought
you
in
there.
by
I'm
an
gonna stop you there,
administration.
because
sure,
here's an argument.
Go ahead, make it.
These illegal aliens are sucking the system dry. If they're illegal, the last
Yep.
thing they want to do is apply for welfare and whatnot and get themselves found. So how are they sucking from the system
Hold on.
if they're illegal and they're underground?
I'm going to explain that. Because the Catholic Church made over $1 billion in 2015 settling illegal aliens, refugees that have undocumented refugees, bringing them undocumented, but allegedly vetted refugees into the United States, getting them set up on social programs, getting them, the food, the different benefits that people can get. Now, these people aren't citizens. They're refugee status. And they've been put on all of the social programs that any citizen of the United States born here can apply for should they be in that situation. And for that, they get paid to do that. Both, there's I think 3 organizations that are controlled by the Catholic Church and 2 that are controlled by the Lutheran, one by the Lutheran, one by the Protestant, or both by the Lutheran churches, which are bringing these people in here. And U.S. tax dollar money is going to pay the churches to do it. That's a fact. That's a fact. Now, we not only pay the church to do it, now we support the people that they brought in who are never going to turn around and get it. Well, I shouldn't say never, but more than likely are not going to get a job and become tax-paying citizens of the United States. Now, will those people be taken out and deported? If it is necessary that they are taken out and deported, yes, but that's not who they're going to go after. The first thing that Trump is going to go after is get rid of the illegal aliens that are part of the gang members. There's over 1 million of them that are trafficking in all the things that I said before. And yet these people still apply for social welfare and programs and get it. And now you've got California that wants to even expand that. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's a system which is destroying the United States of America from the inside. And hence, there is no middle class anymore. It's all everything that the middle class has made has gone into all these social programs. Well, actually, not exactly true. They say it all goes to the Queen, and the corporations that are in the United States that are paying taxes go to all the social programs. Our money goes to the Queen, so they say. And then she sends a percentage on to the Pope. So, yeah, that's how they're sucking the system dry. I have no problem. I have no issue with anybody coming to my neighborhood, getting a job, and becoming part of the system. You know, I no doubt there have been a lot of undocumented aliens pumping gas into my car. Guys from other countries who can barely speak English. And I would chat with them. Where are you from? From Afghanistan. Tibet. One guy was from Tibet. Interesting. You just meet different people. Hey, they're doing something. Now, are they collecting social? I don't know what their personal life is, but I see them working, at least pumping gas, at least running the mini mart, at least doing something that is contributing to the welfare of this country, not just sucking it up. Whether they're paid in cash off the books or not, I have no clue. There's a guy that I love doing business. He's from India. Him and his whole family are from doing India. They own a little local bodega. I call him boss. We have a great relationship. We respect each other. He gives me the family discount when I go in there. It's great. So, that's one thing. When you have someone else come into the country and then say, well, hey, you grant me freedom of religion. Great. My religion falls under Sharia law. What? Now you've got a religion that is based in a theocracy, which isn't a religion, it's a government. And so you've got essentially, look at the no-go zones that have been created in Europe. Now, we don't have no-go zones that I know of, official no-go zones yet in the United States, but we have densely populated areas that are. How did Somalis get in Michigan and Maine? I have no idea. How do you take somebody that lives in the desert on the equator and stick them up in snow country? I can't imagine these people are very happy in the wintertime up there. Now, they don't have no-go zones, but you have heavy, densely populated areas of people from different ethnicities and backgrounds. Will it turn into no-go? I don't know. We hear different stories. Are they trying to be rabble-rousers here in America? Very possibly. Are they being rabble-rousers in other countries? Well, we see things on YouTube, and we see from time to time things on the news. But most anything we see on the news, you can take for granted that it's been staged or faked. The scenes may have been recreated to simulate the authentic happening. It's A little disclaimer they should give before they start rolling the breaking news. But regardless, we can see what is happening to our neighborhoods here in the United States. I can look around I'm back on the grid here. Hopefully, I'm in my last month here and hopefully back off and up to Maine before too long. But in my own neighborhood, I could see houses foreclosed all over the place. I saw bags of garbage. Every spring they have cleanup around here, but I can't believe the amount of garbage that they've cleaned up. Every 50 yards, there's another bag filled with garbage that they've cleaned up off the sides of the road. I've never seen that before. It's like, really? People just use the sides of the roads, the country roads here, as their garbage can. And then if there's ever a little turnaround spot, just filled with garbage. So and this was a pristine area of the Poconos. It was a summer getaway place. And now it's filled with drug dealers, drug users, and people who live in their own filth. Unbelievable. Yeah, that's the deterioration of the country that I've seen, right within my own neighborhood. And I'm sure a lot of people can identify with that. Yeah, I was up in Maine on this last trip. It was a rainy day. It was as we were getting ready to break down camp and come down. I went down and was doing a load of laundry. And here's a gentleman and his son doing their laundry there. They're obviously out hunting. And we got into a conversation. He was from Kentucky. And he said, well, yeah, I'm moving up here, I'm bringing my son up. He said, I want him to experience the way life should be. And he's in Kentucky and watching the same thing in Kentucky. Nice gentleman, mid-America. He's watching the same thing in Kentucky as what I'm watching here in Pennsylvania. He gave me a rabbit that they shot that morning. He said, have dinner on me tonight. It was great. So I made a new friend there instantly, just at the laundromat. And that's just how the way people are. There's community there. So if you don't like where you live, move. If you can. If you can't, have a game plan, because we're going to see a lot of changes. If we are in a repeat of World War I, go and do the history of World War I. You can research it online. It ends with something very interesting. The League of Nations. It ends with the League of Nations as the peaceful ruler of the planet. That didn't work out so good. Neither did the United Nations. That's not working out so good either. Maybe once we go to martial law and establish a one world government through a one world monetary system and get rid of the people who have caused all this war all these years, maybe things will get better, because the scriptures do say, the nations shall declare peace and security, and then the end will be instantly upon them. So, what's that end going to be caused by? Nibiru, the planet cometh. I don't know what else to say. We're getting to the crossing. Be prepared. Prepare for the worst, pray for the best, and that's the best that we can absolutely hope to do. And have a strong spiritual connection with our Creator. That puts us in a total different paradigm. That puts us in a state of love. That puts us in an area that we need to be, because when we're in a state of love, then we are no longer in a state of fight or flight. And that's a good place to be.
Trump was elected on the premise that he would drain the swamp, not engage in reckless wars of aggression. Is he not showing signs of becoming a neocon?
Oh, great question.
Yes, says Siri.
Great question. Yes and no. Here's the situation. It's something I wrote in Letters to Earth, and I point this out. It's how we're being controlled, and it's how we got to where we are today. There are two factions that are fighting, and I focused on the main faction. It's what's coming out now. What we can see is happening is that there's a real strong relationship between Trump and Israel. So there's a Zionist connection here. Now, I want to point something out, and go do your homework if you don't believe me. But the word Nazi is a composite word made up of two groups. The German Workers, National Workers Association, which would be NA, National Arbeit, National Worker, or work in German, and the Zionist, ZI, NAZI. Who elected Hitler to power? He came up through the National Workers. And where did the Nazi Party get founded? The Rothschilds, Oppenheimers, the banksters. And there's a connection that goes all the way back to the time of Jesus, or 2,000 years ago, interestingly enough. I'll leave it at that. But here's the thing. We can identify those two parties today, and it gets exposed best of all within the Knights Templar, because it was the Knights Templar who invented our banking system. Remember the symbol for Knights Templar? Two riders, one horse, means they're going in the same direction. Think about that. Who controls the banking system today? The Zionists and the Jesuits. Who's in charge right now? The Jesuits are large and in charge. You don't believe me? Go back a year to 2015 in September. We got to see a false Jesuit pope who was elected, interestingly, on a day that I predicted, right to the day. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew it was going to be an important day. It was 3/13/13, and I predicted that back at the end of October of 2010 in the 10-10-10 Enlightenment. I predicted that day would be a very important day. We got the first Jesuit Pope, Petros Romanos. What's important about the Jesuit Pope is that Jesuits are not allowed to be Pope. So why is a Jesuit a Pope? People say, oh, there's the black Pope. No. Talking about the white Pope over the whole Holy See. The Holy Father. God's spokesman here on earth is an illegal person, holds that position. I mean, just like Obama, an illegal president? Yeah, just like Obama, an illegal president. Exactly. And so here's the situation. We saw that Pope, the illegal Jesuit Pope, standing in the White House, standing in the Capitol, telling the rulers of the United States, our Congress, what to do. Wait a minute, what happened to separation of church and state? And then we saw them standing right at Independence Hall, where the separation of church and state was supposed to have started. And then we saw him standing at the General Assembly of the United Nations, giving his blessing on the post-2015 development agenda, which he wrote up 2 years earlier, released it as a 41-page treatise on October 2nd, 2013, 6 months after he became Pope. Yeah, I know my Pope history a little bit, especially when it starts matching up with biblical history. So when I saw that, it was off the grid time. Trump ended that. He ended 36 years of Vatican control of the White House. So if the Vaticans aren't running the White House, who is? Oh, the other rider on the horse. The Zionist. Weren't the Zionists controlling Hitler? Yeah, they sure as hell were. Everybody loved Hitler in Germany. Hitler took Germany from one of the most oppressed countries in all of Europe, because not only did they have the Great Depression to deal with, they were already in a state of depression because they were paying back war crimes fines that they had to pay, reparations back to England and France and Belgium. So they had to pay back what they destroyed. And so Germany was under basically almost 20 years, well, 15 years anyway, of depression. And Hitler brought him out of that. Interesting, FDR brought the United States out of depression, and they were both funded by the same people. As a matter of fact, it was Herbert Walker Bush, who was father-in-law to Prescott Bush, who was working for Brown Brothers Harriman, who were funneling money out of the country to the Theis family in England, who was then funneling money, think about this, from England, who was at war with Germany. They were still funneling money into Germany to support Germany. Interesting. So, come on. It's a banker's game. If we don't get rid of the bankers that are at large right now, it's going to be like this, and we'll be enslaved to everything. But, just coming out with a one world financial system isn't going to work. And so we go back to biblical prophecy. This is all part of the satanic system of evil in which we are under. So we have the human trafficking, the child trafficking, why we have the never-ending debt, the never-ending bombing, the never-ending destruction of our own planet. And we've got to look around us. Most of the people are controlled by their iPhones, and they don't even know it. Yeah, artificial intelligence has taken over. Jay Leno proved that with jaywalking, when he walked up to people asking them questions on things that they should know, things that they should have learned back in grammar school, and they're, oh, I don't know. Yeah, that was 20 years ago. Those people have given birth to a whole new generation of know-nothings, all controlled by a little device, and so we give our children devices which literally eat their brain because of the frequency of the actual level that they communicate at is just below microwave. Even though it's only 0.6 of a watt, you've got a little developing human brain there that is being essentially zapped by a microwave oven at low doses. So it eats away their brain over time. And I was part of the cellular industry, and I used to read the reports on brain damage all the time. All those studies were done on adults. It's not until they started to do studies on teens and children did they start to find the damage that in brain and the amount of, and the rise in brain cancer and tumors caused by smartphones. So that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother show, though. But something I'll tell you, Russell, being up off the grid, I felt such a sensation in being free. And the puppy wants to get off the grid too. I mean, I felt such a sensation, and it was literally like fresh air. When I came down and went back on the grid, it felt like I was almost. It was the same feeling as I get when I like to scuba dive, although I haven't done it in a long time. The deeper you go, the more compression you feel on your body, but it's an even compression, and before long, you don't become aware of it. I could feel that by all of the radio waves. We're only less than a mile from the local cell tower. I've got 6 different Wi-Fi signals hitting me here, plus the alternating current from the facility in which I'm living. It was direct current. Didn't have those off-grid. It was direct current. No pulsating electromagnetic waves. But here, all of that bombardment, you can feel. It instantly upset my sleep patterns. So, when you're growing up in it, it can only be negative. And this is a study that they did 30 years ago. It was about people living by high power lines. Kids were getting leukemia at an alarming rate so they actually made a rule. Nobody can build a house within 150 feet of a high tension power line. But before that, high tension power lines went right over houses, giving kids leukemia just from the AC pulse. So it does affect us physiology. It affects our physiology. So do our laptops, our computers, and especially our smartphones, which we never let out of our hands. That all affects our physiology. So use less. And we need to use our mind more to be more creative and create the future that we want. We can sit here and be a victim. We really can. We live our lives in fear. Why? Does it sound like I'm fearful with what I'm saying? No, not at all. I'm getting off the grid. You all have a good day. Take action in your life. If you can't get out of the city, have a plan. Always have a plan. Like I said, prepare for the worst. Pray for the best. Trump, he's going to become a Hitler. Just out of design, by the fact that he's going to have to put into place active martial law. People saying, oh, no, that couldn't possibly be. Yeah, we already had a drill in Boston. Do you really think that they shut the whole city down so they could go find one 18-year-old kid who was shot? And here, everybody shelter in place while we conduct illegal house-to-house searches with what looks to be military-like men running with police labels on their chests. Can you imagine? You're sitting home and watching this on TV, and all of a sudden there's a bang at the door, and you got a bunch of guys in it with M16s and battle gear wanting to come in and search your house. Holy crap. Yeah, that would give you a little state change, wouldn't it? You didn't do anything. You were just sitting there. Maybe you were sitting there rolling and you were smoking a doobie, and all of a sudden, whoa, police raid. And we got to get rid of a million gang members who are illegal aliens. Police raid. Yeah, we got to see it all on TV. All coming out of the Boston Marathon and the Boston bombing. That's what it looks like. Door-to-door searches. Who's here? Who's got guns? I was talking to somebody from Australia. They used to have a gun. They said the police came in and knew exactly where to look for it. And it's not that this person ever took the gun out, ever showed it around, but they banned guns. Only by special permit. They knew exactly where it was. How was that? Took an x-ray of the house. Found it on an x-ray. Huh. Think about it. And that x-ray was taken from the air. More than likely. Based on what I was told and the position of the gun. So, we don't know. We don't know what they have that they can use against us, but we know what we have that we can use against them, and that is what is between our ears. We can use our own consciousness, our own mind, and we can prepare. And with that, I'm going to say, if you haven't read Letters to Earth, The Future is Yours, read it, because find out how to make the future yours. Find out how we got to this point, why it's this bad, and what our future will be, because we do have a fantastic future. www.peterkling.com. Go look it up on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. The future is, Letters to Earth, The Future is Yours. Russell, we'll do another show or two before it's off the grid time, no doubt, and there's more that's going to happen. Love and blessings to all.
Peter, you never have an off day, do you?
No, I'm always on.